All right, we're live for our final episode, at least for fall 2020, of Emancipatory Education Now. Hey, what's up, everyone who's watching this? My name is Brian. I work in the Dean's Office in the Lurie College of Education at San Jose State University. Let me pause the live stream so I don't get the feedback in there. Here today with our co-hosts, who hopefully you've gotten to know them now over the course of the past couple months as we've had these different dialogues. But just to reintroduce everyone really quickly, I'm going to try to go through in the order that we had the episodes. So first we had Gabi lead a dialogue for us on the benefits of ethnic studies. Leslye led a dialogue for us on increasing access to higher ed and to professional opportunities, looking at Proposition 16. Annie led a conversation on cultures of power in the classroom. Jackie led a dialogue on decolonizing education and trauma-informed schools. And then Vincent led a dialogue on cultivating a sense of belonging and creating safe spaces, specifically within LGBTQ spaces. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of the dialogues that we've had so far. I know that I've just really enjoyed hearing what you all have to say and listening to your insights and knowledge and examples that you bring in as a group. So hopefully it's been something that's been beneficial for our students, our faculty, members of the community, whomever has been watching these this semester and hopefully beyond this semester as well. So just want to say thanks, I guess, first and foremost, for you all just being a part of this initiative and really making it what it is, because it was nothing before this semester. So I had a few questions that I just wanted to ask you all, just so we can kind of reflect on the experience and just share some examples and stories and whatnot. So yeah, I was wondering if we could just start by talking about what you learned as a result of going through this experience. What did you learn about yourself? How did it shape you going forward? So whoever wants to jump in, just go for it.
I could go first. So I think in general, like, I learned a lot about myself, and just like, I just really appreciate like being able to grow and like as a student and just really be able to have like dialogues about, excuse my language, but shit that matters, it's so relevant.
Yeah.
And like, it's so relevant, and it's just things that don't get talked about on a daily basis. And I really appreciate like having the space with all of y'all. Like, our passion just really shows, and like whatever we're going to be doing like in the long run, like I'm confident that we're all going to do great. So
yeah,
I like it. That should be the tagline for Emancipatory Education Now. Shit that matters.
yeah. I mean, I think going into this, I wasn't really sure. I was just kind of like, okay, let me drop my name in the hat. But I think the thing that I've enjoyed the most is just getting to know everyone and hear our various perspectives, although we may have come from different backgrounds and experiences. We seem to share a dedicated commitment to trying to move our educational spaces into a place where people can feel seen and heard and liberated through learning. And so I think that for me was a great opportunity to learn about others while also learning about myself. And then I guess I was always like kind of scared to go on something like YouTube. So getting a little bit more familiar or comfortable with that, I guess, against my will, kind of. And just again, being able to collaborate each week as we talked through these different topics, Unfortunately, Prop 16, while I'm on the topic, didn't pass in California, right? So this, I think, demonstrates one of those examples of cognitive dissonance where people say they want equity, say they want diversity, say they celebrate other people, and then don't make any space for those other people. So, so that's at least what I was thinking about initially.
I think that's really, Leslye, that reminds me of Proposition 8, which we all probably can remember. And I remember that like California is known as a very blue state. And, we elected Obama the same night we said like, queer folks can't marry, like if it's not a heterosexual marriage type thing. And so I think that definitely that cognitive dissonance shows up, and it shows up again here where it's like thinking that you're committed to one ideal, but then when you see it presented in a certain way, it's kind of like, no, like actually, and maybe it's, some people just don't really understand it, or it's been sold to them in a certain way that doesn't really, like show why it's beneficial. But then again, I think like you said, a lot of people just like are not really putting their vote where their mouth is. So that reminds me of that. And I think, being a part of this project has just helped me learn just like how much there is to do. That sounds really cheesy and vague, but it's just like, I love all of the different perspectives that you all have brought. And I've learned so much from all of you. And it's just given me insight into specifically the education, which we're all interested in, like just all these different facets of it and all these different perspectives you can approach it from. And so that's been a big learning experience for me, and I feel really like invigorated and excited to be a part of it, and hopefully be a tiny little point of like moving towards emancipatory education systems.
Yeah.
What about you, Vincent and Gabi?
I'm like looking at Vincent like, oh.
I guess I'll share some stuff that I learned about myself. I get definitely like whenever I walk into a group dynamic, I tend to be the more like quiet one in most cases, because I generally like to like observe how, like people respond, what are people typically like. So I usually generally like, I noticed that about myself, definitely like at the beginning, I was kind of more quiet, but then as I got more comfortable with y'all, I started opening up more, and, I saw our group dynamic, so I adjusted. And yeah, I think it's just my way of taking in information is like listening to folks first before I respond, and like really thinking through what I'm going to have to say. So that's what I really learned about myself. Sometimes I do judge myself for taking that time to like really reflect, but that's just what I do. And I think this experience is really enlightening for sure. I learned a lot about myself, and just discovering that I still have a lot to learn to be, a better ally to different communities, to learn more about different perspectives, different issues that are relevant, because, there's so many complex facets. And, with all of y'all, we have different perspectives in the room, Leslye being a doctoral student, and we have undergrads, and we also have a master's student as well. So we get a wide range of experiences. And I think that's really awesome that I'm able to hear from y'all, but I'm really excited to, see what we can do by, like going out into the world and talking with some of our, colleagues and coworkers about this work and the greater, bigger picture of things. So that's what I'm really excited about, being able to have these conversations so that we can go out there and have other conversations with other people and, already feel comfortable with, the uncomfortable for some folks, because it's still going to take some work to get there. Yeah.
I love that, Vincent. I don't think I could have said it better. I think I learned more about just everything else and how to be a better ally. And I think there's always a lot to learn. Like you never get like a check mark and then you're like the perfect emancipatory educator. Like I think it's always like a lifelong process. And I really appreciated these conversations. So I think it just really opened my worldview. It made me think about things in a different way. Like for example, the discussion last week. I think I never thought about what it would look like to have an inclusive space for educators to be out and open as well. So I think just things like that. So I just appreciate this space for being able to explore the different nuances of topics like in words that we hear a lot, like diversity or, just like those buzzwords. But it's really important to talk to other people again with different perspectives from our different like life experience, our different places in life, and our different identities. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I feel like you all touched upon just so many different facets of the experience as a whole, thinking about it from kind of the intrapersonal level to like the interpersonal, and then thinking about wrestling with these different ideas, and then thinking about what does that look like in theory versus in practice. And so that was definitely demonstrated throughout all of the dialogues. So thank you for sharing that. And I know throughout this series, a lot of it was like you all were bringing in your knowledge and experiences from the classroom, from your professional experiences, from your personal experiences and observations. But I imagine that hopefully, at least, this idea or this concept also spilled out into your worlds as well. So I was wondering if you could share a story or an experience that you had this semester in terms of like what Emancipatory Education Now, this idea kind of looked like in your life outside of our Zoom box that we're in here.
I will say, as we were sharing before, I think we started the live stream. My entire life this semester has been in a Zoom box. I know like there's varying like degrees of that. I know I like to tell a lot of people about it, about what I was doing. So I was really excited to share. And a lot of times they'd ask like, what's emancipatory education? I'm like, ooh, well, let me tell you. And so that was really fun. But I think even though it's still been virtual for me for like my work, the teaching that I've been doing, I think thinking about equity in terms of like the Zoom model and the virtual model has been a conversation that I've seen come up a lot. And it's come up in like some of my academic classes where how can we make sure to be like fair and equitable to students who are coming from a lot of like different circumstances, and now they don't have school to go to. And, you have to think about like some people in their homes might not have like reliable Wi-Fi access, or might not have good spaces to like sit and attend school. And they might have like familial commitments or needs. And then also a lot of people rely on schools for like lunch and a certain amount of their food and everything. So that conversation and how to improve that came up a lot. And I mean, I think there definitely could have been improvements made and can still be improvements made as we continue for who knows how long with the virtual model. So that's something that I think I've noticed and paid a little bit more attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, it's challenging for me to like share like what I'm doing. And especially because like I took a break from school and just like letting go of that old student narrative and just like really stepping into like this semester, my one and done semester, and like graduating and just like, showing that like, I'm here and just like doing what I can. So I had like professors like reach out to me and they're like, oh, you're doing that? I'm like, yeah, like, a little shy, but I'm like, yes, that's me. So yeah, just like, and then like same with you, Annie, like just like being able to talk about it, like share it. Like I think I have most of you on Instagram where I was just like, whenever I was tagged, I'd be like, oh, like I'm a repost and like everyone can see, and that's like, it's, what else? And I think also like being part of this, like also like helped me be, like come up in conversation about like speaking with Dr. Love, and that was awesome. Like it was so cool. And even then I got feedback from like being a part of that. So I think it's just like being able to like really step into that power and just like step into our like potential and just like really own it and just embrace it for what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first episode I like sent to my sisters, but then after that I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to share with anybody. And then people were sending me messages from campus or elsewhere, I saw you on YouTube, or I saw you in my email, because I guess Brian sent the video via email. So, so I'm glad that we were able to get the tech support and like publicity support from the college. And also, again, just being able to use this medium to amplify the various messages that we talked about this semester. And I do echo Jackie, what you said about last week, getting the chance to speak with and moderate, co-moderate Dr. Bettina Loves talk. That was, an awesome experience that I don't think would have happened necessarily without this show. So that was great. And I think for me, it just continues to remind me of the work that still needs to be done, but becoming more comfortable with just saying exactly what it is, and speaking truth to power. So
say that, Leslye.
I got so excited when I saw Jackie and Leslye like last week on Bettina. Yeah, I was just on the webinar and then I was like, oh my God, it's Leslye and Jackie. I'm like, yes, yeah. So that was really exciting to see both of y'all. Yeah, to be able to, co-facilitate that and, also to listen to Bettina Loves, her whole, experience sharing her story. And also, like she was very insightful. Like I was on Zoom most of that day and like just being able to to watch your Zoom, I was like, oh my God, I was zoomed out, but I was so glad I checked it out. Yeah, but y'all did a really great job. Wanted to give y'all a shout out again.
I felt the love in the atmosphere. So yeah. Gabi, you said you missed it. You would have pulled over. You pulled your car over. You was driving.
I was doing a lot of driving that day, and I was just like, "Oh, like it'll probably be recorded." Like they had talked about it, so I like definitely want to let. And I'm like, "What? I didn't know Jackie and Leslye were like." So I felt so silly, and then Jackie's like, "It's not recorded."
Yeah.
You guys introduced me to her, so I will definitely. I'm gonna try to see if I can listen to her audiobook since I do a lot of driving.
But, yeah.
Awesome.
I think I'm gonna buy like the actual book. I'm like planning to buy it for the holidays, so I'm really excited to read that.
I think that was one of the first ones we mentioned, like first week, maybe. It's in our resources on our website. So yeah.
I think also just agreeing with what you guys were saying, like coming into our own power. I think sometimes I felt like I have to, I don't know, like it feels bragging or it feels like, oh, like look at like post about myself or like to talk about what I'm doing. But like, for example, I think about like, I was never really open. I don't know. I think it's good to be able to name things and I don't think it's showy or braggy. Like, for example, I did a lot of work in like a summer camp, but I would never say like specify what types of kids I was working with. So I think people just assumed that I was doing like a paid type of summer camp thing. And I never was able to like bring attention to the fact about like talk about education equity, like start a whole conversation about like the different types of access because I just didn't want to seem like I was bragging. And I just think these conversations are important, like that we address it head on and we don't use words like disadvantaged and I don't know, just like those like around words that don't really describe anything. So I just really appreciate these discussions for kind of going into depth. And I think it just reminded me that it is important to speak out, like in whatever way that I can. Like, I don't think I'll ever be the person creating infographics and like going live on YouTube, but
you don't know that, Gabi.
So, like, I think it's just like it helps me come into my power just like a little bit of just like being able to talk to a couple of friends about this has been really insightful. Like I have a friend that watches this religiously and he'll text me like long paragraphs like this. We have to scroll through them. Every time there's like he's like, Leslye killed it. I love what Vincent had to say today.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, and speak on it. Like it's just like
oh, that's awesome.
Now.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
But he's probably gonna watch this and text me after he sees this. But yeah, I think that's what I appreciate for it. And I think also I'm taking an ethnic studies class right now, and I think it helped me reflect on why I was starting to feel kind of uncomfortable in the class. And I realized because it's like ethnic studies, it's not just history that's detached. You have to like really look within yourself, look at your family history. So that sounds obvious, but I realized that after we did the episode, I was like, oh, that's why I'm uncomfortable with it. because I have to do self-reflection.
Yeah.
So it helps me with my life as well and my education journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's real.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that was the intent. So I'm glad to hear that some of those things, happened as a result. Is that this would be, something that would be empowering for you all individually and as a group, and that hopefully would kind of, create some ripples in our community, in our campus, and like the greater region beyond the campus, where we're just, having these dialogues, putting them out there, and then people are going to listen to them and respond to them in some way, right? But at least it keeps the conversation going ultimately, more than anything. So I was going to say I had something else, but I lost it. If I remember, I'll come back to it. But so with that in mind, now, you all have had this experience, so, you can't unhave the experience, I guess. So what does this mean for you all now, going forward, now that this is coming to a close? Like, how do you think going through this experience will kind of shape where you see yourself going, or what you see yourself doing or prioritizing? It could be academically, professionally, personally, whatever.
I think for me, the critical analysis piece is important. And so oftentimes I think people may view the critiques of educational systems as like, well, why don't you do something else? Or why don't you, why don't you leave, right? I mean, I've had multiple people kind of say that now. And I think it's important to be able to use your voice for something that you have boots on the ground with, right? I mean, if you're not in there fighting right along with us, what opinion do you have? What value is your opinion about how things are going? But I think when we have children that live in this system, when we are educators within it, leaders, consumers of it, college students, for example, we have every right to speak to what are the needs that have gone unmet, and how have we continued to maintain status quo. We talked about these systems, the school system is not even being set up for kids that look like me. And so how do we then expect people to succeed and excel and continue to like build and fight within themselves, when we could just as easily recreate a system that is truly welcoming for all, right? And so I think for me, the lesson is to keep going. And I think so many parts of our conversations together were reaffirming of that work, which is useful in restoring us when we can feel tired by the constant struggle. So that's what I think.
I love what Leslye said about keep going. I think that's what it is for me too. Like that's something that I took away from this. Like I've worked in education spaces, and people will say things like, "Oh, it's okay that we use that type of language about the students," or "It's okay that we like to have like some kind of source of like some kind of pessimism." And I think it can be hard to push back on that, or to think that like, oh, maybe I am thinking too much, or maybe I am a little too sensitive, or maybe this is just the way things are. And I think it's really important to continue to have these discussions and know that there are other people that know that there is a different world out there, that there is a different system that can serve all kids. So I think this was hopeful for me. And I think after this, it's just going to continue to be confident and not back down, and to continue to like fight for what we believe in, which is emancipatory education.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that like these conversations that we've had have given me just so much more to think about. And it's also been, just another affirmation of like to always keep going and keep growing. Like I know for myself that like there's so much more that I need to like learn and be aware of, and like gain understanding on from others. And already I've learned so much more from this. And like, I know that when I go into an educational space, like I'm going to think about that thing that Leslye said and that thing that like Gabi and Jackie and Vincent said. And I'm going to be like, okay, like these are things, that are important and that I need to like consider and implement when I'm working in these spaces. And very similar to what Gabi and Leslye said of like it just knowing that there are other people who understand that these topics are important and that these fights that we're trying to fight are important, is just encouraging and gives me energy to want to like keep working towards emancipatory education in the future.
We should compare our beginning of semester faces to our end of semester.
You probably look more tired, huh?
Child, I am so tired.
I'm just thinking I'm gonna really miss, being in a space with y'all where we can talk about all this. I felt like we really built a strong bond, and hopefully we can stay connected on Instagram and several other platforms that we're on with one another, because it doesn't stop here for sure. Yeah. And especially like now, I think I'm gonna just go around the world and question like why certain practices or things exist. Like, why does it have to be this way? Like, can it be another way? Because like sometimes we just don't realize why certain things exist. Like, why do students sit in rows? Can't they sit in like different shapes of desks and stuff? Or like, why does a student have to have their Zoom camera on? Are you like just watching, or what are you so scared of? So many different things exist. So we should just question why certain practices, exist, because sometimes they don't need to exist and sometimes they could look different. But, you just need someone to step up and say like, hey, maybe we should change this. And sometimes that takes some work. And something that this, like emancipatory education kind of reminded me of, like, outside is sometimes people say that this is like a political thing. It's like, why are you like education folks saying like, and I've heard this before. And technically, like, although it is political, but it's not political in terms of parties. It's political in terms of these are social issues that are relevant to people, people and societies. So, which is why it's important.
I like what you said, Vincent, about like having this space, and it was just like very validating. And I think that's something like I actively work on to like be inclusive and, find ways to keep building that. Like when I posted today, Vincent, you're like this term is more inclusive. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. So then I changed it, and it's that growth mindset that we all clearly have. And it's just about being able to continue to build on like your strengths, or like like being challenged and like stepping into, or like not being scared of challenges, and like applying our critical thinking, applying problem solving. And I remember like I think the first time we met, like I remember I voiced about like, oh, like we should have like trigger warnings, and then Leslye was like, well, people who really experience this don't have that. And I was like, damn, like that is so true. And it's really helped me like shift that mindset about like people's traumas, and just like, and just, again, and you're probably tired of me saying this, but like leading with compassion, and just like connecting with people, like genuinely connecting with them as humans, and like, like that's all we want. That's what being a human is, like connecting, and just like, just like validating each other.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool to be in this space and just, you know, like with like-minded people, you know, people who are understanding, and just really push that effort, like push that agenda for like a larger scale. And I like talk about all these issues like on my platform because it's so important, and like people need to know about like everything, you know, like
Yeah.
at this point, like if you choose to like be like closed-minded or like like turn the other way, then like that's on you, you know, and that says something about like what your values are. So check your privilege.
All them people that had my anxiety up over the last 2 weeks of this election. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. But I like all those different connecting points that you all had there, just about these whole ideas of like, just keep going, continuing to persevere, keep growing, like take what you've learned from the situation and carry it forward with you. Take the relationships that you've developed from this experience and carry them forward with you. I mean, ultimately, like all of these systems that exist were created by people, right? So, you know, you have the ability to influence and shape what these systems look like. You know, obviously you have to kind of ascend and like, you know, develop the right relationships and, you know, have the right level of authority and all that stuff. But I already consider you all to be leaders in our community here. And so I have no doubt that as you continue through your academic and professional experiences, you'll continue to just ascend more and more. So just, yeah, keep going for sure.
Yeah, and it takes a collective to do this work, you know, like not any one of us can just do the work. We're all here together to do this work. And I'm really excited that the Lurie College has this, you know, like awesome mission and values, and, you know, that we're going to move forward with this work.
Yeah, I agree. I think I really also appreciate this because it helps me get connected with the education, because I think I'm not in the education. I'm not majoring in education. So I really wanted to be connected. And this was a great way to get back into that. So thank you all. And thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I love that you said that
Thanks for
too, Vincent, because that's been like a big thing that I've thought of. Is just like, you know, look how much, even if it was just us meeting like every week or two to like talk, I feel like this is just such an enriching experience. And look when like some passionate, dedicated people can come together. Like I think to what you said, Vincent, that's the way that like work needs to be done. And just developing that like interpersonal those interpersonal connections has been like so valuable to me. And it's just really shown me like this is the kind of like space I want to operate in, and to, you know, to like help evolve systems.
Yes, Annie.
So just to wrap things up, we've finished each of these episodes with a call to action. So we wanted to see what's a final call to action that you have for anyone who comes across this conversation.
I guess I would say speak out in whatever way you are comfortable with speaking out, because I think everything counts, whether it's sharing on your story, whether if it's talking to a family member, whether if it's talking to your kid or like another kid in your family, or talking on a wider scale. Like I think starting somewhere. So starting the conversation in some form.
And then adding on to Gabi, you know, like just taking the time to like process that information, because I know sometimes in our society, it can seem like, you know, like the first one to speak is like the most important voice, but that's not always how it works. Sometimes you have to just like, you know, press pause, kind of just like sit there and take in that information. So, you know, I challenge y'all to actively listen to what people have to say.
Definitely. And to build off that a little bit, like, get comfortable and get okay with being wrong, and realizing that, you know, there was something that you didn't know about that, you know, someone else is able to educate you on, or something that you used to think that was actually not the case. And, you know, it's not an attack against you. It doesn't like, you know, you don't need to be defensive. And as a matter of fact, like that just, you know, perpetuates harm. Like if you could just listen and be like, okay, that's a thing I was wrong about. And now like, you know, you can have gratitude, like someone let me know, and now I know more, and now I can be better. So just really try to embody that growth mindset.
I don't know if you guys know Brene Brown, but she said on one of her podcasts, like, I'm here to get it right, not to be right. So that's like something I remind myself. I like that
podcast, right?
Her what?
Her new podcast.
Her new one. I like it.
So good. It's so good. I love it. Yeah, I like what you said, Annie, like about like embodying. It's like embodying like what you would like to see, and like dedicating yourself to like cultivating like whatever ideas, or you know, thinking about how to have conversations, and just like tap into your potential. Like, you know, like once you start like applying yourself, there's this Kendrick Lamar song, and I love Kendrick. He's my number one artist, by the way.
He's from Compton.
Yes.
My hometown.
Really? You're from Compton?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm from Pasadena.
Oh my gosh.
I know that.
One of my besties is in Pasadena.
Like he got a Pulitzer Award.
Yes.
Prize for his lyrics, you know. So anyways, going back to the quote, it's apply yourself to supply your wealth. And I think we often think about wealth just like financial, but there's like, you know, wealth in health, like whatever, wealth in knowledge, or just whatever, and just like really think about it in that way, and just continue to better yourself. And when we do that, we like better our community, whatever community we're in.
Yeah. I think my final call to action is like living Black Lives Mattering. I think that as we've seen time and time again, and even starting from spring, summer to now, that continues to be something that seems to be negotiable in this country, negotiable in our school systems. And as a Black woman is, you know, the most critical piece to my own very survival, right? If I am no good as being a leader if the place that I'm in does not value my very humanity and existence. And so I think for me, the call to action is for people to get their minds right when it comes to Black folks and when it comes to Black children in our schools, because they matter and they deserve to flourish and be anything that their heart desires.
Yeah, thank you to all of you for sharing those. I mean, I think those are all very tangible calls to action. I mean, a lot of them are things that people can start doing immediately. And Leslye, I think yours was a great call to action to finish on. So I think we'll go ahead and close it out there. So
Thank
that's a
you
wrap.
all for watching.
Yay! It's been awesome. I appreciate y'all.
Woo, we're done.
Yeah, on YouTube.